welcome to another video. Today, I'm not in a very good mood, so sorry if this is not quite as chipper as it usually is. I tried to buck up. I did the recording of this one a while ago, and then I kind of fucked it up, and it made me a little bit upset, and so sorry if I'm not super chipper. I don't know if I am usually super chipper. I feel like I kind of am, but I wouldn't categorize myself as a very chipper person, but I try to ham it up for you guys a little bit, but today I'm a little bit sullen, so sorry about that. I'll try to cheer up over the course of this video. Anyway, today we're doing some studies. You guys know the deal. It's Thursday. We're studying. And what we're studying today is a little bit different. Typically when I draw full body sketches, I'm doing gesture studies, which is where you're trying to get like the idea of the pose down gesturally. We're not really focused on too much on like the forms. You're trying to focus on like the gesture of the pose, right? Like what does the pose look like or whatever. But today I decided I was going to try and draw form. I'm not sure if I'm doing this correctly. If any of you guys is like, that's not how you do form studies, I would love advice. I was reading this art book that I have. It's not necessarily a reference book, but I guess it is a reference book. It's just teaching about forms and anatomy. I don't remember the author right now, and I'm not in the mood to go grab the book, but the first portion of it was talking about form, and the author was talking about how he doesn't do gesture drawings because they're not precise enough. And I was like, okay, that felt a little bit pretentious to me. So I don't know how much I was going to take that. I took that with a little bit of a grain of salt, but I decided I was going to do some form studies for you guys this week. And so I was trying to break down the forms of these poses into shapes. I should talk a little bit about where I got the poses from. Like either last week or the week before when I did that that video about breakdancing poses for a study session. Someone under that video, I can't remember your name, I'm so sorry, but thank you for the suggestion. They suggested that I do capoeira poses, which is like the fighting style that was disguised as dance in like prisons, I think in Brazil, but don't quote me on that. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. They're capoeira poses. And so I just took some capoeira poses off of the internet and I used them as reference so that I could break them down into these forms. And so from what I understand for form studies, it's like breaking the body down into shapes, like very, very basic shapes. And so I've been using cubes, and for the arms and legs, I'm using cylinders. I am making them not like all one size. I am trying to like get a little bit of perspective in there and like shortening sides of the cylinders, so that way it kind of mimics the idea of the human body. Like the cylinder, like if you're going to turn your arm into a cylinder, it is more narrow at your wrist than it is at your elbow. And so I tried to do that a little bit to get the forms down that way. I'm not sure if this is the correct way to do form studies or if this what form is. I think that I am a moderately intelligent person, but I don't know everything, and so I'm not entirely sure what form is, but I'm doing my best, you guys. I'm trying my best. It is a real-time video, and the drawings I did were actually pretty large, and so I do 2 on this page, and I flip over and do 2 on another page. I'm not sure why I drew these fuckers so big, you guys. I have no idea. I was just trying to break them down into shapes, and like I made the head, or like the cube I made for the head is like so large, and then I was like, well, the rest of the body needs to fit that, and I don't know, they just ended up really large, and like I couldn't even fit them on the whole page just because of the way I set them up. I don't know why my mind was like, make them really, really big, and my hand just followed, or maybe my brain didn't think at all and my hand just did it all on its own. I don't know. They are very large drawings. And so I feel like I didn't really get a very good study session because of that. I could have just done some more on another page, but honestly, when I was doing these, I was like, this is not turning out well. I don't think I'm doing this right. And so I don't want to study something too much if I'm doing it incorrectly, because then I won't make bad habits, and like, I don't want to create bad habits. I already have lots of bad habits, and I don't want to keep making new bad habits. And so I was like, we'll just stop at 4. We'll stop at 4. They were actually kind of fun to do. It was kind of fun to like see how I would break things down into shapes, but I'm not really sure if this is the correct way to do it. I'm gonna harp on too much how I feel like I don't think these turned out good. I do want to talk about some of the positives I felt like that came from doing the study a little bit. I do think this helped me a little bit with like perspective, if that makes sense. Also, when I was reading the book, it was talking a little bit about overlap, and so it was like the way to convey distance is to like do overlap, and it'll help put like things behind other things if you overlap the shapes, right? And so when I was doing these, I was trying to think of that as I was placing down the shapes for the body parts. And so if the person was like bent over, which they are in a lot of these poses, they're like bent over, but their head is like over top of their shoulders, which is over top of their, their whole torso. I would draw the head, and then I would try to draw like, the square for the head, or the cube for the head, and then I would draw the cube from the for the torso underneath that cube, and then I was able to like draw the legs coming out from that part of that cube, if that makes sense. And so it was helping me a little bit with like the foreshortening also. Not, I said perspective, that's not what I meant foreshortening. So that helped me a little bit. I think it also helped me a little bit with like what's the opposite of foreshortening? I guess it's still foreshortening. It's in a different pose later, where like the hand is really large, like it's coming towards the camera, and like the rest of the body is smaller because it's further away. It helped me with that a little bit too. And so I do want to get better at these form studies, because I do think it would help me a little bit with more foreshortening. I'm not very good at foreshortening. It's not something I practice very much. I have trouble thinking of more dynamic poses, and especially I have trouble with shot composition. And I think that foreshortening is a form of shot composition, I think. Like a worm's eye view, or like, like a bird's eye view, worm's eye view, stuff like that. I think that those shot compositions are really cool. And so I feel like hopefully learning this form thing and the overlapping shapes will help me learn to do that. Like I said, I do really like those sorts of poses and stuff, or just sorts of perspectives. I think they're very cool, and I really would like to learn to get better at those. And so just drawing these interlocking shapes and like stacking them on top of each other is probably going to make it a little bit easier for me to like visualize the way things are in 3D space. I think that's what these form studies are for, is to help you visualize things in 3D space. I'm not good at that. And so I do plan on doing more of these form studies, so that way I can learn a little bit more about visualizing things in 3D space. Like I have like this issue primarily when I drive. This is a little bit off topic, but I promise that it kind of fits into this. When I drive somewhere, right, I know where I'm going if I'm going forward, right? I'm like, I've been down this way hundreds of times, whatever, I know this way. My problem is when I come back, right, I don't recognize the landmarks from the opposite side. I don't know if you guys are like this too. Please let me know. I'm not the only one who gets this when they drive, but I know where I'm going to the place, but coming back, even if I've been like back like plenty of times, I still sometimes get mixed up. I'm like, is this where I'm supposed to get off? Or is like, am I getting close to where I'm supposed to be going? And it's like, I have trouble flipping that in my mind. And so hopefully I also have trouble doing that with drawings, right? Like I can see what it looks like from the front, but when I try to like flip it to the side, for instance, I'm like, I don't think that's right. It doesn't look the same when you flip it to the side, right? But it does. It's like the same form. It's like, the same shape, but just from the side. And so it's like I have trouble visualizing that. And so hopefully this will help me get a little bit better at visualizing that sort of thing in my mind. I don't have a very, not extensive. I don't have a very clear mental image when I draw. I don't actually like see a picture when I'm drawing something. When I want to draw something, I don't like see it in my head in a very imaginative way. It's sort of kind of, it's partially words and partially like a fuzzy image. So I don't really see it too much when I'm thinking of it. And so I feel like hopefully this will help me get a little bit more of an image, or at least help my mind just sort of kind of even use it in words in a way, so that way I can see what it looks like from like different angles. That's what my hope is anyway. One issue when it came to doing these form studies though is that the poses do come off as very stiff, which obviously they're going to be. Like a cylinder is a very stiff shape, a cube is a very stiff shape. There's not a lot of curved lines when it comes to these sorts of shapes. I'm not sure if you're supposed to add curved lines and still keep it as like a cube and a cylinder, or if you're supposed to keep it as all straight lines and like try to figure out how to make like a curve through like adding a different amount of of cubes or whatever, because you can make a circle using cubes. Like when you think about it, a circle is just made out of like a shit ton of angles, right? Just so much so that it becomes like 360 degrees. I don't know if you guys ever see those breakdowns where like they make like a square and then like they keep adding like angles and like lines to the edges until eventually it makes a circle. A circle is not the absence of straight lines, it's like a lot of straight lines altogether, if that makes sense. Like a lot of teeny tiny straight lines. I don't know if this is making sense to you. I don't know if you guys ever did like geometry or whatever that is in school. I don't know if that's geometry or what, but they like make a circle out of like a bunch of lines. I don't know, it's weird to explain. I don't know if you guys can see it in my head the way I can't explain what I'm seeing in my head to you guys, but yeah, I'm like, so am I supposed to like use a bunch of like squares and rectangles to make a circle, or to make curved lines? Is that what I'm supposed to do, or am I supposed to curve the lines of the rectangle or whatever, or the cube or whatever, to make it a curved line? I don't know. I have to look that up. I'm not sure if that's what you're supposed to do. for form studies. I would love that, because in gesture studies, if you're like, that line looks like a curve to me, you make it a fucking curve. And also curves are like very important. Curves and straight lines are very important in gestural studies. Obviously you're trying to get like the gesture of the pose. You're like, it's not exact posing. You're just supposed to get like the feeling, like the movement of that. And I feel like curved lines help with that sort of thing in gesture studies, but I'm not sure if that's what you're supposed to do in form studies. And maybe they're not even supposed to be too different, and I'm thinking of them too abstractly, and I'm separating them too much in my mind. I'm not sure if they're actually supposed to be a lot more similar than the way that I'm making them out to be. I don't know. I need to study more. I really need to read that book. I've had that freaking book for like 2-3 years at this point. I have not read it. I'm so terrible about buying books for studying art and then not reading them. Thankfully this year I am getting more into studying art. I've just been doing it on my own though, unfortunately. I feel like using these reference books that I've purchased with actual money would actually be a lot helpful if I actually read them. I do have some smaller ones that I did flip through, but I didn't even read them really too much. I read them a little bit, but then I am really excited when I buy them, and then I flip through them, and I'm like, wow, it looks so nice in there, and then I put them away. I don't use them, and so it feels like a little bit of a waste of money, but I feel like I did learn quite a bit from actually doing these form studies, and I feel like I should read that book and take more of the lessons to heart, because I would say it's not a very beginner-friendly book, and I think I'm at the point where I am not a beginner anymore, but I'm not sure. I think I'm intermediate, but I'm not 100%. I feel like I'm still like beginner adjacent, but I don't know. Anyway, this is the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Sorry if I was rambling a little bit and none of what I said made sense, but I think you guys are used to that at this point. I will go ahead and see you in the next one. Bye.